we've just got to learn that it's okay to fail forward. We've got to step out and do something when it comes to living this out in our lives and in our churches.
Beautiful thing about Jesus is something Dietrich Bonhoeffer said. He's worthy of being followed. We could have 500 more podcasts, and you could watch them all. And if you're not willing to step out in faith, you're never going to do it. There's going to come a point in time where you just have to say, I'm going to take one step.
As we're talking about biblical definitions, I think it also shows the importance of just that high expectation culture that we've got to create. Jesus was setting the expectation early. Welcome back to another episode of the Disciple Makers Podcast. We are in a series right now on the 10 disciple-making principles, which I think are going to be really, really good to go through. We've got my best friends, megachurch pastor Jason Ishmael, right here with us. Most righteous reverend.
That's on my name tag.
Okay.
Yep.
Might want to change your business card, though.
Yep.
So
this is unbelievable.
I love it.
I know.
I
know you
really
love this.
like it.
I know you love this.
I really like
it's great.
Just nailing it.
Yep. Mega disciple maker.
Mega
Josh Howard.
Whatever.
Prolific multiplier.
Here we go.
Disciple making movement maker. You're a movement maker and shaker of the heavens.
You're dishing it back really well.
Josh Leo Howard.
All right, here we go. So we got the Disciple Makers Podcast, guys. Principle number 2 is we have to use clear biblical definitions so that people know what we're talking about, right? And it helps define when someone makes disciple making the core mission. Well, then we need to understand, what are we actually trying to make, right? Like, what is a disciple? What is disciple making? Because there's a lot, dude. When you use that word, man, if you asked 100 Christians across the country what is a disciple, they'll have 100 different definitions, right? And so it's important for us to have some really clear definitions of what we mean by these terms. And so we're going to jump in and talk about this, which, by the way, these come out of 10 principles that Bobby Harrington and I developed after studying movements all across the world and also churches in America. What are really the core principles that are helping disciples make disciples who make disciples? And we saw all across the board that people had some really clear biblical definitions of this.
I like to close my eyes when I'm shooting at a target. Spin around maybe a few times, and then just give it a good chuck.
Just give it a good chuck.
If I'm playing darts, that's how I do it.
Exactly.
It's like a dizzy bat race right beforehand. Close my eyes and let it fly.
Ted Lasso style.
Good luck with that,
barbecue sauce. All right, we got it. So let's jump in. What is a disciple? And we're going to give you guys Discipleship.org's definition for that, which I think is really good.
Yeah.
It's a great definition.
The holiest definition.
It is the only definition, okay? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Wow, yeah.
It is the only definition.
You're going to make a mandate here. This is the dogma of discipleship.
Exactly, yeah. So this is what it says, and it comes out of Matthew 4:19, which I'd love for you to read or quote in a minute.
Yeah.
But here it is. Okay, I'll give you the definition first, and then let's go into the scripture that it really was birthed out of. But a disciple is someone who is following Jesus, being changed by Jesus, and joins the mission of Jesus. So let me say that again. A disciple, there's 3 key components there: following Jesus. And we'll unpack these on this podcast of what we mean by these and how we can practically put it into play. But a disciple is someone who's following Jesus, being changed by him, and joining his mission. All right? And so talk with me through how that was kind of birthed out of Matthew 4:19 and what that looks like.
Yeah, I love the day 1 conversation that Jesus has with his disciples.
Oh, I know, right?
Not the day 500 conversation, not the you've been here for 4 years, now you graduate conversation. This is the day 1 calling that Jesus gives to fishermen.
Yeah.
Come, follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men. And you see those 3, just as you've said.
Yeah.
Following Jesus,
being
changed by
so
Jesus,
he's gonna make
on
you
mission
become,
with Jesus.
Right.
Come, follow me, following, and I will make you become. And I think there's so much hope in this because nobody's going to look at this and go, Well, I am central casting for the perfect disciple maker. God is lucky to have me on his team. I'm going to change everything because I'm so good at this.
I know, right?
I find myself desperately dependent all the time.
Dude, I can't tell you how often I feel like, okay, God did that in spite of me, not because of me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it gets bad sometimes.
Well, he told Corinth, to paraphrase, when God uses people like you, it's impossible for anybody but God to get the credit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. He still speaks through donkeys.
It's just like Gideon's army. Too many soldiers. Too many. Because if you win, you're going to think that you did it.
I can't get the credit for that. That's great. That's my impression of God in heaven. You know, it's probably a horrible blasphemous impression.
Well, I think in the last podcast, God said bro to you. And
the Holy Spirit did.
You have a very interesting relationship with the Lord.
He didn't say bro. He said bruh.
Bruh. Brr.
All right, let's get back to business here.
Come, follow me.
Yes.
And I will make you become. He's the one that's doing the transformative work.
Which is beautiful.
He's the one who is making us
The burden
become.
of responsibility of transformation is on Jesus' shoulders.
Yep. Man, what a gift that is to humanity.
Beautiful.
I will make you become what? Fishers of men. There's the mission. There's the mission.
Boom.
And I love the picture, though, because at this moment, of course, this is in the context of a miraculous catch. I love that he calls them to become fishers of men, and it's not, I mean, you might catch a couple of fish. You know, maybe this could work.
Yeah.
These guys can barely haul in the catch. The nets are breaking. It wants to sink the boat with how much God has done. What a beautiful calling from Jesus on day one to his disciples.
And it just shows the importance as well, as we're talking about biblical definitions, I think it also shows the importance of just that high expectation culture that we've got to create, right? Like Jesus was setting the expectation early. Look, hey, bro, if you want, you could stay and fish and and build a great fishing business, which I'm sure that was their immediate thought. Like, if Jesus is on our team,
we're going to be millionaires.
We will be millionaires with this many fish. And he's like, listen, this is just a foreshadowing of what I'm going to do in your life with bringing in a miraculous catch of people, not just fish. And I want you to be a part of it with me, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
Come, be with me, follow me, and I'm going to make you fishers of men, which is what a wonderful invitation that Jesus is giving us to join him in the most miraculous, abundant harvest that this world has seen. It's beautiful, man. So what does that look like practically? Like, how if a disciple is someone who's following, okay, let's start there. Like, what does it really mean to follow Jesus?
Well, the nice thing is that following is optional.
Right. Jesus was like, if you kind of want, you can if you want.
But we've created theology like this.
I know, right?
You know, I've made a mental decision. So I've checked a box. I've assented to a set of facts.
Yep.
But that's it.
Yeah.
If you're assenting to a set of facts that Jesus is who he said he is, that the resurrection is real, and that we're going to follow him to the resurrection.
Yeah.
Like, if our destination is resurrection, I want to be as close as possible to Jesus through the entire journey. Psalm 23 tells us where we are walking right now. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
Yeah.
If I'm walking in a place of peril, I want to be really close to the one who can take care of me, the one who can protect me,
absolutely, man.
The one who knows where he's going.
Yeah.
And so following, this has been a conviction for me, because I think in early in my life, I'd been in faith cultures where it felt like following was optional, when really, like, it's not like being an extra Christian. Like, this is now I'm like really super extra awesome Christian. Like, no, like, following Jesus is being a Christian.
Yeah. Well, I think you're so right on, man. And I think, for those of you listening right now, it's so important for us to nail down on this, because I think it's become basically an epidemic in the church that following, like truly following Jesus and being his disciple, who, to use this definition, who's being changed by him regularly and who is joining his mission, that whole thing is, all of it's optional. Like, as long as you go to church, give a few bucks, go to a small group, you're good to go, man, you know?
I think you're even going a little too far there.
Yeah.
Join a
Okay.
small group and give my money. Huh?
I know, like, go to church, like, 1.7 Sundays a month, or
Even
whatever
that's
the
a lot.
average is.
We consider in America, statistically, 1.3 times a month is called regular church
Oh,
attendance.
1.3 my bad.
This
I was
is
0.4 above you.
very optimistic of you, actually.
Yeah.
That's 1 time a month, sometimes 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Doesn't
That's
sound
what it
regular
is.
to me.
That is great. So, but that's all become optional. Like the definition that we just gave of disciple, following, being changed regularly by, honestly.
Yep.
Like, think about the last time. I mean, even for me, I'll point the finger at me right now.
I'll point the finger at you as well.
There you go.
Everyone's pointing the finger
Everyone's
at you right
pointing
now.
the finger at me. When is the last time that I've actually seen a pretty significant transformative jump in the way that I live? Really? Like, most of us there may be slight, small changes being made over time, but many of us are just as angry now as we were 10 years ago. We're the same level of loving as we were, or maybe even less the older we get than we were 10 years ago. We're just as gracious or worse than we were 10 years ago. Because it's become optional for us, and we're not continually repenting, confessing, surrendering as we're following, and we're not being changed by him regularly because we're not surrendering and really following him. You see, I think part of the transformative work of Jesus and the disciples' lives were proximity. And we're just not very proximus. Is that a word?
Close.
Close is a good word.
Right?
We're not very close to Jesus.
Yeah.
And we've made it optional to follow him and to really be a disciple.
Yeah. Isaiah said this, is quoted by Jesus as well. Your mouths are close, but your hearts are far.
Yeah.
Your mouths are close, but your hearts are far. And I think for most of us, this has to start with some higher expectations for what following means.
Yeah.
I think we have cheapened the calling to follow Jesus. What a privilege to follow Jesus. I mean, man, if he literally walks into the room that we're sitting and Jesus says, "Come follow me." The beautiful thing about Jesus is something Dietrich Bonhoeffer said. He's worthy of being followed.
Yeah.
Jesus, Bonhoeffer, in talking about this Mark's recording of the calling of the first disciples, points out that there isn't an explanation for why they would leave their nets and follow Jesus, why they would leave their livelihoods and follow Jesus. And Bonhoeffer says, well, the reason is because Jesus is the reason.
Yeah.
He's worthy of being followed.
Yeah.
As you look at Jesus, we say, maybe.
Yeah.
No one else is worthy of being followed the way Jesus is worthy of being followed.
Well, you and Jesus.
Well, right,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah. I want to tell those at Antioch Christian Church in Cedar Rapids, Jason Ishmael
You're asking for lightning to strike our church now, I guess.
Worthy,
Is that
worthy
your
to
hope?
be followed. So
What a powerful thing, though. Like to realize the cost of following Jesus is high, but it is worth it. It's worth it. It's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Jesus says things like, if you gain the whole world but you forfeit your soul, what does it profit?
Yeah.
What does it profit a man? Well, nothing actually.
Yeah.
It profits him nothing.
Yeah.
To gain the world?
Yeah.
It profits
Absolutely.
him nothing?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Oh
good, man.
man, I want to follow.
And let's make this real personal for a second for everybody listening, because I want to do two things right now in the next couple of minutes. One is let's make this personal. As a disciple of Jesus right now, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing following? How are you doing in being changed by him, regularly repenting, confessing, keeping short accounts with him, having his transformative work? Man, Jesus is just so good.
Yeah.
He's so good. And his transformative work in your life is so important. How are you doing on the following? How are you doing on the transformative work of Christ and staying close to him and in proximity with him? And then are you joining his mission and actually getting out there and joining Jesus in his work? How are you doing? And so that's the personal question. But then let's talk to church leaders for a second. I think we've got to ask ourselves that same question. How are we doing? But then secondly, how are you helping your people do this? Do you have clear definitions like this? You don't have to use ours. You could use a different one. That's completely fine. But do you have a clear definition of what you mean when you say we're here to try to make disciples? What are you trying to make, right? Like what and do you have a plan to do it?
Yep.
Right? And do you have a pathway that's going to get you there? I think it's so important, guys, because it's if anything has been clear in the studies that have been done over the U.S. church over the last 50 years, is our current systems of operating are not getting us disciples, like naturally, right? Like the programs and Church Sunday alone is not getting us disciples of Jesus. And part of the problem is we don't even know what we mean when we say that. Yeah. Like, what is a disciple? I don't know. And so church leaders, man, let's have some clear, simple, straightforward, biblical definitions that we're constantly throwing in front of our people of this is the journey we're on, this is the destination we're going for, and then let's lead from the front, man. That'll be one of the other principles. I just kind of threw it out there a little early. But but how are you doing personally, and then how is your church doing with actual true definitions? You said that you took a couple other things from Bobby in your church when it comes to the definition side of things. Why don't you unpack that for just a minute for us on this? Sure. Yeah.
Bobby's got a helpful way of remembering this in it's talking just a physical illustration where he talks about being a head, heart, and hands disciple. Head, this is somebody who has surrendered to Jesus, is following Jesus. Heart, this is somebody who's being transformed by Jesus. You can imagine the heart work of our faith being transformed by Jesus. Now hands that are on mission
the
for
work
Jesus.
Of Jesus, yeah.
And so this is something we say over and over again. Need to say more, could never say enough.
Yeah.
To constantly be talking about what does it look like to be a head, heart, hands disciple.
That's good.
I can't think of anything outside of like that doesn't fit into those categories.
That's good, bro. And then it even goes with the scripture. I mean, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength.
Yep.
It goes back to that too. Like that's how do we love God with all of that? Well, we become a disciple who's a head, heart, hands disciple. That's good, bro.
Think about what happens when you have a clear definition. It creates an expectation.
Yep.
It gives you a target to aim at.
Yep.
So here we are, of people saying, yes, I'm going to follow. I'm going to be obedient. This isn't just knowing. This is doing. Jesus said there's two sons. One of them says to his dad, yes, I'll do what you say, but then doesn't do it. And the other son says, I won't do what you say, and then does do it. Jesus asked the people with him, who was right? And they all responded, the son who did it.
Yeah.
Jesus said, that's the correct answer. I would love to have one of those. Jesus said, that's great. I'd take that for the rest of my life. I had a conversation with Jesus. He told me I was right.
Yeah, right.
How long was the conversation? It was like 3 sentences.
Yeah, but he said I was right.
He said I was right.
Yeah.
But I think there's something really powerful that happens when we lean into the possibilities. What happens when we understand the high expectations of following? The cost of following is worth it.
Yeah.
But you made mention earlier something really powerful. How many of us are not experiencing transformation?
Yeah.
How many of us look at our lives and we've grown stagnant? There isn't progress. Man, I am so discouraged when I don't see progress. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It could be the most basic thing. If I'm not seeing progress, I have a hard time diligently giving myself to something that isn't moving.
Yeah.
But I think about people actually changing. I remember in Frozen, this is so ridiculous.
Here we go.
There's a lyric in the song.
It's my 6-year-old daughter's favorite movie, by the way.
We're about
so
to trash it right
thanks
now.
for bringing it up.
We're about to trash it.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Sorry,
I'm not going to give all of the context around the song, but there's a little lyric that gets slipped in when like the stone troll people are singing, where she says, people don't really change.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
And there is a cynicism in that is heartbreaking because I'm around people all the time that are changing. Think about it. I have a friend who is just about, like, we're talking like in the next days, going to hit his first year of sobriety. If I looked at him and said, dude, people don't really change, man.
People don't change.
He would say, man, there's some proclivities in me that are always going to be there. And in that sense, sure. But dude, your pathway does not have to be locked in forever. Man, how many people have been in such difficult circumstances in life? Man, I have some friends that have come out of long-term incarceration, and to look at them and say, yeah, you're stuck with this. You're never going to change. Like, no, that's not the message of Jesus.
Yeah.
The message of Jesus is crossing over from death into life.
And how transformation. Good news, how good of news is that?
It's beautiful.
I mean, look at the people that Jesus actually walked with, man. Yeah. I mean, these are some of them angry, rebellious, zealots and tax collectors, and some cheat and steal and this and that, and then because they're with Jesus, radically transformed to become world shakers, right?
Yes.
World changers. That is the good news of Jesus, man. It's so good. Which takes us to the definition of, I think the two definitions I want to hit on this podcast. One we've already hit, a disciple. But what about disciple making? Okay, because I think what you just said takes us really good into that. And disciple making is intentionally, okay, so there's intention there, and relationally. So stepping into a relationship with the intention of helping that person follow Jesus, be changed by Jesus, and join his mission. So we take the definition of a disciple at D.org and then put it into disciple making. It's intentionally forming relationships that help that end be accomplished.
Brilliant.
So good. Bobby Harrington, shout out to you.
What
buddy.
A smart guy.
Yeah, what a smart guy. It is so good. And so are we intentionally forming relationships where we are also helping people follow him more, right?
Yep.
And be transformed by him, and then helping them step into his mission in a way that would make sense for them.
There's an implication here. Remember, the core mission of the church is disciple making.
Yeah.
And so you are making an implication in these definitions. So we're talking about a disciple and a disciple maker. To be a disciple, you don't take one and leave the other. Yeah. If you are a disciple, then you are going to be a disciple maker.
Yeah, that's the implication there, which honestly we throw out sometimes.
Yep.
Like, we've made it okay in our world, in modern Christianity, that you can be a disciple of Jesus and never make disciples, and that's okay because that's someone else's job or responsibility. But the very definition of disciple and disciple making makes it so that you're joining Jesus' mission, which is making disciples.
Well, I mean, we've said it already, 98% of American Christians are doing that.
Yeah.
We have done that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've lived in that ourselves for a while. 100%. I think about a group of, it was not long ago, we had like 5 20-something, like early 20s, a couple of them were like 18, 19 guys get all surrendered to Jesus. They got baptized. And this was like, I think they were all teammates on a baseball team. And there was like a massive amount of testosterone in this group. Lots of energy. They were the splashiest baptisms I think I've ever been a part of. It was fantastic and amazing. I remember having a conversation with these guys. You could just tell how much excitement there was around what they were experiencing.
Yeah. And
it just begged the question. I'm looking at these dudes like, you guys are going to do so much in the faith. You're going to impact the world so significantly. And I remember saying to one of them, can you imagine if this ended with you? Like this joyous experience that you are on right now, but you are the last one. There's no one coming after you because you won't share it with anybody else. And he's like, no way.
Yeah.
It was I didn't have to give him some teaching about it. It was a natural inclination for him. Yep. This is good. I want to share it.
Yeah. That's so good, man. Yeah. So with these definitions, okay, so a disciple of Jesus and what disciple making is, alongside of that is when you have the definition, you said it very clearly, it gives you a target, it gives you something you're shooting for. And then combining that with pathways that lead to that end are really what the best disciple making movements are doing in the world. They have a very clear target that they're aiming at, and then a very simple pathway that is going to get them to that destination if they follow it, which is beautiful. And so we've got to ask our church leaders listening, begin to think and pray about, is this something where you've got a clear definition, but then do you have a clear pathway that you're leading your people on and that you're personally walking as well, that is going to lead them to that end, to help them follow Jesus, be changed by Jesus, and join his mission? Are there simple steps that people can take? Are you guiding the pathway forward so that they can jump in and really get the job done? And that's a huge question for us, because I think so often we say we want to make disciples. We want to have clear definitions. We might even put a mission, a mission statement up on the wall about disciple making or whatever.
Let's go, baby.
Yeah, but functionally and practically, it's just not. We're not doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? How can we get around that and really get back to the core when we're talking through disciple making? Because honestly, I think the temptation sometimes, man, is that we set these definitions and we put them on a sheet of paper somewhere, and we never really bring it down to brass tacks on how does this definition actually relate to how our people live every day? How does it attach itself to the true pathway that we're on?
Yeah.
Right?
Here's where it comes down for me. If I looked at our church right now and I said, okay, here's the command of Jesus, make disciples. Great, love it. If Jesus is commanding, we're in. Okay, well, what's a disciple then? Can you help me understand? Well, here's the definition of a disciple, right out of Matthew 4:19, with the endorsement of Bobby Harrington and even Josh Howard.
Whatever.
And they're like, Josh Howard? Yes.
This is ridiculous.
Absolutely. So now I got the definition of disciple. Okay, what now? If you're going to be a disciple, you're going to be a disciple maker. Here's the definition of disciple maker. We've gone pretty far, but I still don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I still don't know what to say.
Yep.
What conversations do I have?
Yep.
And there is this fear in the American context that I am now, what if I make heretics, actually?
Yeah, right.
What if I say things that are not right?
Right.
And teach people things that are incorrect?
Yep.
Am I going to do more damage than good? And so maybe I should just slowly back away and
Right.
let my undergraduate or master's degree or PhD pastor handle this, so that something bad doesn't happen by my good intentions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's why the next several principles are going to be so important.
Yep.
Because it's going to guide us into some of those actual action steps that, like, okay, what does this really look like for us? And so we'll dive into that. So please keep listening, guys.
But I would say, if I could answer
yeah,
one,
please. Yeah.
We're never going to get to a time we could have 500 more podcasts, and you could watch them all. And if you're not willing to step out in faith,
Yep.
you're never going to do it.
Yeah.
There's never going to be enough. Here's the plan. Here's what you say. Here's the studies you go through. There's going to come a point in time where you just have to say, I'm going to take one step.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bold enough to take one
Yep.
step. I'm going to say yes to what Jesus said. Because the disciples in Matthew 4:19 were not fully equipped in Matthew 4:19.
Yeah.
They
No,
didn't know all the
absolutely,
stuff in Matthew 4:19. Jesus hadn't even taught all the stuff in
Right.
Matthew. The Sermon on the Mount hasn't even been articulated yet.
Yeah.
But they still took a step.
Yeah.
They still said, okay, Jesus,
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes to what is right in front of me,
Yep.
and then you're going to show up and do something.
Yeah, that's so good, man, because the truth is, I think that, we've just got to learn that it's okay to fail forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to not be good at something at the beginning when you first start it, right? We've mentioned that before. Like, you first start any sport, any activity, you're not great at it at the beginning, and then you learn and you grow and you step forward, and we just got to fail forward. We've got to step out and do something when it comes to living this out in our lives and in our churches. And I think that's the big key here, guys, that yes, the principle is we've got to have clear biblical definitions to really set the tone, set the target, but that must also be attached to the way that we live, the pathway that we're using, and that's going to be really important as we move forward.
It's messy.
Yep.
But I mean, for us, make perfect disciples perfectly.
Right.
What a
exactly.
farce.
Yeah.
Like, it takes the onus off of
Yeah.
Jesus and it puts it on us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good, man. We really hope guys, this has been a blessing to you, that this episode has really helped you as you think about what it means to be a disciple who makes disciples, both personally and in your church. Please join us next time as we're going to jump into the next principle. But Jace, thanks, man. Appreciate you. And thank you guys for listening. Please check us out at Discipleship.org. We've got a ton of great resources there that we'd love to be able to give you, a bunch of free things that you can download. And then we also have a national forum coming up in Houston, Texas, May 7th and 8th. Please check us out there too. Come sign up, be a part of it with us. We'd love to see you. But until then, let's do all that we can to really be disciples who make disciples and jump in together into Jesus' mission. We'll see you guys next time.